Hi, welcome. In this video, I'd like to take a few minutes to discuss what the relational script or the method is doing within the framework of putting all the dog's cards on the table. Now, within the context of control and motives. Now, again, I get this question, Dale, what do you mean about motives? How do I, get in tune to that? Well, a lot of it is, again, a lot of it's gained through applying the method, just making sure that the integrity of how the method's applied, how the relational script is applied, holds true. That the integrity of that holds true. So, for example, when you see me moving the dog into positions, not using commands, moving the leash certain ways, working off the side position for the staging area, building off these follower moments, the head turning in, those are all the things that matter. Okay, it's really important that all that holds together, because here's a point I'll make before I get into this issue about motives of the dog, is it's all relationally connected. So, for example, one of the dynamics in that script itself, in the method, is to change the person, how the person thinks, if they require change. So that's why it's really important, just so people understand, when I say about putting influence coming online, and you're pushing on the dog at certain points. Again, when I say the word push, people take it all sorts of ways. No, it's about what's reasonable. Okay, it's relational influence. It's like you're bringing the dog into the position. Okay, so what it is, it's like language. It's communication. So the dog knows the intent. So again, but that act of engaging the dog at the physical level with touch at certain points, and not rubbing. Be careful with that. No rubbing. It's all about language. How you're pushing, how you're moving your fingers, how you're pushing up on the leash, how you're pushing down with the other hand, how you're working that leash. It has to be very clean technique. It has to be the type of influence has to manifest properly. So again, just understand. So that's setting up change in and through the person. Now, some people may not have to change. Okay, but again, it's important that you still apply that type of method, that it comes online exactly the way that you see it on my videos. Now, again, getting back to this issue about exposing the motives of the dog. Well, it's about this issue of control. I'm going to get in this a little bit to work off an example, just so you'll start to understand this a little bit. Is, for example, when the dog's in a sit position beside you on the leash at your side, and moving the dog in from the sit to the down position, okay, it's all about who's calling the shots, who's in control, believe it or not. I mean, dogs are very aware of that. They're very much about, and it's about the perceptions of that through that owner, relationally. And based on what's established, okay, how the dog thinks about that person, what's already been happening over the weeks, over weeks and months. So when the dog is going into certain responding, say, this is why I don't use verbal commands. Again, this is something that it requires some critical thinking. Trust me, you really got to sit back and think about this to understand some of this. But if you can get some of this, what I'm saying, it'll be amazing. Trust me, it's really going to produce amazing results. But again, you have to kind of be very open-minded. You have to get more in tune to, what the intent here or what the goals are, and how this all sets up to not only change the person, but exposes the motives of the dog through control. Who's in control? So it's all about being in control, taking control, and starting to bring the dog into the follower script, into the follower role, getting the dog to release that control and starts to change the perceptions, how the dog thinks. But again, when the dog's getting back to the dog's in the side position, is again, if you use a verbal command, that dog's may go down into the down position just fine within the framework of response in the position. But the response issue, again, understand, response isn't just about going through the motions. There's motives attached to that. I want to be very clear about that. Dogs are relational animals. This is a real key point here. So, it's about who's in control. Now, how you can test that, again, is understand, if you use a command, it's going to be based off that response on, again, perceptions. For example, the state of the motivations of the dog. Doing something because I'm going to get something in return, or I control that person, or I'll do this to get to that. There's all those scenarios going on, happening throughout within the context of control. So therefore, to put the cards on the table to start to change perceptions, it's about how influence manifests, how that language speaks through the method with beginning to create change. And how that happens is as soon as you start to push on that dog's shoulder blades, okay, you go and say from the push pull, that little method, and then you're continuing, okay, to creating a set point there, and then now you're starting to assert influence to put the dog into the down. Now here again, I'll break this down for people too. I just understand that dogs, through this connection, okay, dogs know the intent. They know exactly, because how influence sets up, how it manifests, they know. And this is where learning gets very twisted up in this stuff. People will assume, they'll look at, what's happening, say, why would Dale push the dog, aggressively into the down, all this silliness. No. Okay, it's about understanding what this represents relationally, okay, with the dog understanding, knowing the intent, and exposing this issue of control. So, for example, if a dog truly is in right relationship, okay, I want to be clear about this. If you begin to push on that dog's back and the intent is known, the dog will know exactly, because again, the level of influence is within the reasonable context. It's about the language that's being spoken through that. If you push too fast or too hard, that's not reasonable, okay? That's not what I'm talking about. If you watch my videos, you'll see that, see what I'm doing. But as influence is manifesting through physical contact with how the method is setting up, it's how the dog responds to that, okay, within the framework of what's reasonable. If the dog is truly role changed, the dog will submit to that. In fact, it'll go right into the down, no problem at all, no challenge, won't be kicking up, and it'll just come together perfectly, no problems. If not, okay, you start to bring that influence online. Again, I'm not using don't use commands for this. Start to bring influence over the dog, and then see the levels of challenge through that. Okay, but it's important that it sets up properly, that it's within the context of a reasonable level of influence, and it's communicated the way that you'll see it in my videos. But the other issue too, sometimes people say, well, I still want to say down. Well, you can say it. You can still probably get the same result by saying down, but make sure you're pushing at the same time. Okay, that's taking precedence, that you're taking control. Okay, that word, trust me, you're better off leaving that word off. I'll bring commands online once I know that a certain level of relational change is happening, has already happened. Just understand, there's very intentional with how all this stuff sets up. When you see how I do the method, I'm identifying what the process itself, I'm going through the sequence. So what I'm doing here is I'm separating, I'm breaking it down into two stages. Stage one is making sure relational change is going to happen. Once it happens, then the commands come online. Okay, so just understand, it's all very intentional, because again, if you don't understand this issue about control and motives, and this is the problem in the dog training world, people are making assumptions. They're not testing the motives of the dog that way. They're not putting the cards on the table through the method. So again, just want to bring this forward. So that's how you do it. So when you see the method, even when the dog goes in from a down, okay, from a down position to a sit, you can still be slowing that down a little bit, and you'll see what the reactions are. In fact, that dog should stop if suddenly, again, within the reasonable context of how it's the language that's being spoken through the method. Okay, again, I'm not talking about unreasonable. I'm talking about within the framework through nature, what's reasonable. When influence communicate manifests at a certain point, that dog's coming up halfway point, and I start to slow that down. Watch the reaction. That dog slowing down is submitting to that influence at that level, or is that dog suddenly you'll see just try to shove its way up quick, hard, because again, it doesn't want to be brought under control. Okay, and then here's the thing to understand. When you see those things happening, understand you can connect those all to everything else. Okay, so just how this all sets up, really important. But again, I would encourage you to check out my videos. People ask me, Dale, about being a dog trainer. Go back. Really, go back 5-6 years ago in my videos and just start from video 1 and go right up through it all. Get out a notepad or whatever you have to do and take notes and just absorb it. That's the path. I'll be honest. You're not going to see this method anywhere else. This system is based on understanding what training is, and so I would encourage you really think about what I'm saying about why don't use commands, the intent of knowing what you're doing, why the integrity it has to hold together, why don't look at the mainstream picture the way most people do, the problems with that. I go through the whole thing. So I'd encourage you to check out my videos. Lots of great information. There's lots of gold nuggets that you'll get out of it if you're open-minded. Just you have to be really open-minded, though. You have to really, because again, the problem here is once people do a certain thing for a certain amount of time, it can be very difficult to understand these things. But again, that's what's really happening in the dog training world. So thanks for watching.